Hello everybody, this is Pitchfork Black here, and welcome to the Skulls General Reviews long tease review on Spiral Scratch. So without further ado, let us begin this review. So for the cover itself, we have BBC Books, a ripped off charity sticker, Doctor Who, Spiral Scratch, Gary Russell, and then for the cover art itself, we have the Sixth Doctor, just sort of standing there, photoshopped from one of his stories, I want to say Revelation, but he wore a different costume in that, so never mind, with these massive sort of spirals in the background, with these very sort of kaleidoscopic yellows, burgundy reds, browns, blacks, with this sort of weird sort of writing-like type stuff sort of spiraling throughout the spirals on Colin himself, as you can see there. Quite an interesting cover, but very, very beautiful cover, but very hard to describe at the same time. And then for the spine, you have Doctor Who, shrunken down bit of the cover, Spiral Scratch, Gary Russell, BBC, with a continuation of those spiral effects. And then for the back, we have like a sort of burn or burst of light that sort of morphs into a square containing the synopsis, which then morphs into a little burn just there, with more of that sort of continuations of the sort of spirals and stuff all over the cover. We have the shrunken down bit of the cover once again. We have the synopsis, barcode, original UK, US and Canadian prices, Doctor Who and the TARDIS are trademarks of the BBC. And now for the synopsis on this Doctor Who book. Carsus, the largest repository of knowledge in the universe, in any universe, for there is an infinite number of potential universes, or rather there should be, so why are there now just 117,863, and why, even so often, there's another one just wink out of existence? The Doctor and Mel arrive on Carsus to see the Doctor's old Professor Rummus, but he has been murdered. Can they solve the mystery of a contracting multiverse and expose the murderer? With the ties that bind the Lamprey family to the past, the present and the future unravelling around him, only the Doctor can stop the descent into temporal chaos. But he is lost on Janus 8 and Chilius, and a 20th century Earth where Rome never fell. And then for the interior of this Doctor Who book, we have Doctor Who, Spiral Scratch, best wishes, Gary Russell, BBC Books, as this is a signed copy of Spiral Scratch. Back in 2016, when Spiral Scratch went down in price, I bought the book off of eBay for, I think, about 12-16 quid, and the seller didn't specify as to if it was a signed copy or not, so I got this just thinking it was just a regular old copy of Spiral Scratch. I opened it up and I was completely gobsmacked to find that it was actually signed by Gary Russell. Very, very cool. And then we have the various copyright guff of this book. This book is respectfully dedicated to the memories of Brian Ainsworth, John Bailey, Jim Briggs, Don Hay Ailery, and most especially Trevor Russell. And then there we've got the start of this book. This is a 272 page long Doctor Who book spread across 16 core chapters with individually named sort of chapters. Like each of the 16 chapters are named something, like chapter 16 is named Everybody's Happy Nowadays. And then there we've got acknowledgements about the author. Coming soon from Doctor Who Books Fear itself. New series adventures coming soon from BBC Books, The Divine Strain, Only Human, The Stealers of Dreams. And then there we've got new series adventures are already available from BBC Books, Clockwise Man, The Monsters Inside, and Winner Takes All. And then there we've got recently published by BBC Books, Monsters and Villains. And yes, this book is so late on into the PDA run that it actually features new series books. As you can see, this was published in 2005, making this one of the last Past Doctor adventure books that there are, and probably a last hurrah for the Past Doctor adventure books, but we'll get onto that in a minute. As for the general consensus of this Doctor Who adventure, it has an average rating of 3.44 out of 5 on Goodreads, with generally mixed reviews, with many different opinions on the book, but a fair few positive reviews despite all of that. Do I agree or disagree with the general consensus? Let us find out in this review. I am one of the people that have actually experienced all of the six Doctor finales that I know of. I've watched the mixed Trial of a Time Lord, I've listened to the mixed Sixth Doctor Last Adventure, and I've read the schizophrenic madness that was Time's Champion, and now I've read this. And I think, personally, I've truly saved the best for last. Now, for contextualization, I would say watch my Times Champion review, as I think this book is kind of similar in many ways. If you've read both, you may know what I'm on about. Now, if you've watched that review, you'll know that I find that it's like staring into the mind of a schizophrenic Time Lord, that book, Times Champion. I would say this is about the same. Continuity-wise, it's not quite the fuckfest that was Times Champion, which had about 50 references across 2 to 4 pages at one point, but it does get pretty crazy. Frobisher, the shape-shifting talking penguin from the comics and some Big Finish audios, makes a cameo. Okay, fair enough, but how about the Sixth Doctor and his companion from the webcast Real Time making a cameo? Yes, that happens in this book. This book, like the Sixth Doctor Last Adventure, ends with events taking a toll on the Doctor, leading to the triggering headbang in Time and Irani. I heard some stupid rumour that he regenerates from drowning in quicksand, but I can safely debunk that and say that is caused by the monsters of the book, the Lampreys. The premise and whole experience is about as crazy as Times Champion in my opinion, with there basically being literal rips in time, creating paradoxes and allowing duplicates of characters to be created, with the finale having a total of about eight Sixth Doctors by that point. Whereas that had an even crazier plot, Spiral is a crazier experience in my opinion, as Champion had a whole 400 pages to be relaxed and let the reader absorb what's going on. However, here with Spiral Scratch being about 130 pages shorter, the whole experience just spirals into a blur at some points for me, as there is so much going on. I honestly would have preferred this to be about the length of Times Champion, to be honest, in some ways. The way that because that way it would have been so much easier to read and digest, and would have let the premise have been padded out a bit, allowing for an easier to understand book. Maybe not quite as long as Times Champion, but maybe around sort of one of the length of the Interference books. However, at the same time, I do feel that the length is good, because at the same time as what I just said, I feel that it runs nicely and doesn't overstay its welcome. Yes, it's quite frankly confusing as fuck, and I do think I need about 2 rereads to let it fully sink in. But underneath all the confusion with how much is going on, there is actually a really good story in my opinion. With compelling characterization and characters and awesome monsters, this keeps me going despite how crazy the whole thing is. The Sixth Doctors are well characterized, as well as the Malayan Bushes, as well as all of the supporting characters, but in particular what stand out for me are the monsters. The Lampreys themselves are rather like the Chronivores in the sense that they exist outside of reality itself, capable of being in multiple locations whilst feeding off of clonal energy, the temporal energy generated by living beings as they exist. The Lampreys literally devour time, they like nothing more to find and completely extinguish an entire multiverse of realities just to feed. However, in order to actually enter a reality, they need to find a focus, unique mental waves on a time-sensitive individual in order to home in on them and break through into their universe. They can also shapeshift in the forms of the time-sensitives that they target. I personally feel that the lampreys are great monsters throughout to have as general overarching monsters, and I feel that they are very memorable and worthy of being within a Sixth Doctor finale, with vivid scenes of them tracking down the Time Hunter book series references, really bursting out of the vortex. With vivid scenes of them tracking down the Time Hunter book series references and literally bursting out of the time vortex. I will say, however, that this is one particular book that you need to finish if you truly want to appreciate it. I know that's something that every Doctor Who book has to it, but this is a rare case where you need to finish it to actually get it. For instance, the entire Chapter 1, actually Chapter 2, my mistake, is the story of the Green Children myth, and that doesn't make any sense until quite a bit later on in the book. Nonetheless, this is an overall crazy, mad and awesome read that I'd recommend highly if you're looking for something to end this Sixth Doctor on a good note. Trial of a Time Lord, Times Champion, The Last Adventure, Spiral Scratch, I've experienced them all, and Spiral Scratch is without question the best, and I recommend it.